Hello, everyone. I am here today with a wonderful friend and colleague who I know as Jomo Simmons, a wonderful holistic medical practitioner. We used to be co-owners at Third Root Community Health Center in Brooklyn. And I just wanted to catch up with my good friend to find out what is going on in his life. And I'd like to know more about his motivation, his inspiration, and his take and his philosophy on the practice of acupuncture. Jomo, would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure, Dr. MJ. Hi, everybody. My name is Jomo Alakoye Simmons. Patients call me Dr. J or Jomo, and I'm a holistic medical practitioner. My primary modalities are in Chinese medicine, and I incorporate other modalities, energetic-based, meditational-based as well. So yeah, that's who I am.
All right, Jomo. So when a patient comes to you, they're coming in and they've got lower back pain, which we treat all day, every day in our practice, but they're coming in with some pain. What is it that you're going to give to them when they're laying on your table?
All right, well, it depends on the individual. I focus my treatment practice is based on the individual. I can do triage and treat a whole bunch of people. But if in one-on-one, I focus on the individual. And so I look at what their needs are based off of what they're presenting. Acupuncture is the primary modality. I may utilize massage therapy coupled with essential oils. And I may have them address their diet and give them some meditations to use. And in all of that, I might also incorporate some form of energy practice, maybe Qigong, some could call it that, or Reiki, auric practice. So those are primarily what I do.
All right, thank you so much. That's great. It seems like you are looking at the body as a whole and you're giving them everything to get them healed. And I think that's really awesome. All right, so tell me, okay, so I know what inspired me to become an acupuncture physician. I know what events occurred in my life to push me or steer me in this direction. And part of that was growing up as a little girl in Hollis, Queens, seeing a lot of devastation from the crack era, seeing people suffering with diabetes, seeing people suffering with the post-traumatic stress of having drug-addicted parents, seeing people struggling with the stress of poverty, and seeing violence happening around me in many different aspects. And when you grow up in that way, you feel powerless at times as a child. You feel powerless as a child and as a teenager, and you also take on some of that trauma, or at least I can say that I do, and I did. Took on that trauma and wanting to see the people around me getting better. And I think that kind of pushed me into the field of health, but I knew that I wanted to do it in a way that was, number one, sustainable for myself and for myself in many different ways. I'll say it like that. And also something where I was healing the whole person, which is, what you just touched on. What is it in your upbringing that steered you into the direction of acupuncture specifically?
Well, I'll do my best to be mindful of time in answering this. It's a question that patients ask or it comes up in treatment. I grew up in New York City. I was born and raised in Harlem, but raised in the Bronx. And then my mother, when I was 9 years old, moved back to Harlem to live with her mother's family. They had a lot of cats, and I had an affinity for the cats. I can say this was the first memory of things moving in the direction to where I am now. They also I was a reader. I could read very early. So one of the series that I read very early was the Little House on the Prairie series, Laura Ingalls Wilder. I would read that, and it would bring up memories when I lived in the Bronx. My mother would shop and say, you know, an A&P at that time, and they would have the town and country magazines. And I would always say, I want to live in the country. I'd look at the magazines, the woodworking, wood house magazines and things. So it would bring up that energy. And then working with the cats and playing with them. And then even being there when my own cat was born. My aunt, my mother's sister, who was a nurse at that time, she one day came by and said, you know, you're always working with these cats. You'd be a great a great veterinarian. And I was like, oh, what's that? And I looked it up, and I knew at that point I wanted to be a veterinarian. I was very clear.
Wait, let me ask you, Jomo. Jomo, let me ask you really quick. Do you think that affinity for animals kind of goes hand in hand with what we do? Because I feel like growing up as a child, I also had this compassion for animals. I was the little girl bringing home stray animals and things like that, and taking care of them and nursing them back to health. And I find that this is also very common with some of the other acupuncturists that I talked to, where they were also like, they found themselves caring for these little creatures around them. Do you think that kind of goes hand in hand with what we do?
Oh, I know it does. I know it goes hand in hand. It's, you know, our practice is rooted in nature. You know, Taoism is a natural, some could say a naturalist religion that observes the movement of nature, and is mostly about, largely at the core, about how do we navigate those movements with ease. So I know it is. You know, and I knew I already had a relationship with the earth. You know, I would dig in the dirt and do all these things, and I won't go into all of that, but I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian. And my dream at that time, at 9 years old, 8 turning 9, I said, I want to be a farmer, I want to be a chef, and I want to be a veterinarian. I want to have a farm, grow the food, and feed the food to people, and use the veterinary medicine skills to take care of the animals that would be part of the farm.
All at the same time.
Jump forward. And yeah, that's what that was all. I knew what college I wanted to go to by 11 years old, Cornell University, all of that. Anyway, jump forward. I was not able to do those things. In high school, couldn't go to the high school I wanted to go to that would have supported that. College, was not allowed to go to the college I wanted to go to support those things. And I kind of buried it in a way and focused on the other things that were of interest: art, music, writing, and acting and things. So in 1996, the woman that I was involved with, we lived together. I was reapplying to colleges, and this brochure came, and she happened to open it up, and she said, this is everything you do. You should do this. And she literally, we had been together at that point for almost 2 years and known each other for 4. And she said, everything you do is this. And if you do this, we will be straight for life. Mind you, this is 96, so I was 24 years old, turning 24. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, Swedish Institute, Jeffrey Ewan, okay, you know, acupuncture, Chinese medicine, cool. I'll do this when I get older. You know, that's literally what I said. I'll do it when I get older, because my focus was on her getting her degree and such. I had already done a lot. That school followed me every place I went. When I expatriated, left the country, they found me. They found me in the Caribbean. They found me when I moved upstate to farm. All of the things I said I wanted to do at 8, as I walked down that path of doing it later in life, 2003, 4, 5 on, by 05, I re-entered college, working on completing a dual degree, and was pondering what to do because I didn't want to drop out again. And the school popped up again. Every year again, they popped up again. And I said, this school has been finding me every single year. I need to go to the open house. So 1996, the first time, that was the first year of the school opening. 2005, it opened up 10 years later. I go to the open house, I sit there. I see one of the students that I would have been a student with, who's now a senior, to meet the teacher, the Jeffrey, hear everything. And I said, yeah, this is what I should have been doing. But all those other skills, farming and everything else, played a role in it. So I'll say my upbringing, yes, was about service related with my family, my mother's side, seeing my grandmother provide a service and for her elders and such. But it's something that was divine. This is literally something that I was born to do. That's it.
Okay. All right. So it seems like it found you more than anything. Seems like it found you. It seems like it was something that you just couldn't get away from, like a calling almost. Because
Yeah.
you had those skills and then you just found a place where you could pretty much, apply those skills. So it does seem like in a way it did kind of find you
Yeah.
to a certain extent.
Again, like I said, is divine. I mean, I come from my philosophy is that children, if we use the systems that are available to us, and they're largely esoteric, we can then know what our children's predispositions will be, what they'll be predisposed to doing vocational. If we pay attention to them, we can know those things. Then our job is to support them. And that's what these systems can do, whether it's Ifa or the Bagua, Bazi, these systems can help support the child so the child is a benefit for the community. They help us to know how to navigate life. And in some ways, the child knows what they want to do, what they're here to do, if they're supported well. And it just so happened, I had a lot of trauma as well prior to that moment. Internally in the house, but that period with my mother's family, my mother's family, was very, very peaceful, very, very supportive in a way that I had never experienced before. So I was able to just explore my internal self with those animals and with those books. And when my aunt said what she said, it just made sense. And even though I wasn't allowed to do those things as a teenager, at a certain point in life, what I call my Saturn Return, that's a term you're familiar with, something happened. And I just was like, something's not right. And I started wanting to do something different than what I was doing. A lot of things actually happened. My cousin died, and he was very rich when he died. So money then was like, you could make a lot of money and still have a horrible health and die. That was catastrophic for me. Traumatic. So that was a factor. And ultimately, that shifted me back on a deep spiritual path to understand death and life. And then that led me back to saying, oh, I remembered I wanted to be a farmer. Let me explore that. And then after that, I came back to the States and was like, oh, well, I'm going to study sociology and anthropology. Okay, I'm doing really good at this, and this isn't going to serve me. I'm not going to be happy just pushing pencils and writing journals. Okay, this college keeps finding me. Let me go do it. So it was divine. And because when I went, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I did it when I got older. Literally what I said, I did when I got older, and if I had done it when I was younger, who knows, but, it's not about what I could have, should have done. It's about what I did do, which is I did it when I got older, which is what I said I wanted to do. So it was divine. Yeah, it's my calling.
Absolutely. I think so. I think from knowing you that it really is. I think that to heal people in some kind of way, that is you. That's the essence of you, 100%. What has been the defining moment of your career? What has been the thing that you've been the most proud of? And I'm sure you've got many of those moments, but what has been, if you could tell us, if you could kind of bring it into one thing that comes to your mind immediately, what has been that thing that you could say, this is who I am as a practitioner. This moment defines who I am as a practitioner.
Wow. So many. Yeah, if I would say, I had a lot of internal challenges as I was cultivating my practice in New York. And there was a day where I was kind of at my wit's end and was just very frustrated. And I remember saying out loud to spirit, you know, that's what I would call God, if we want to say, or our higher self. You know, I need a sign that this is what I'm still supposed to do. And I went into practice, and I had a patient that I had not seen in 3 years. She'd come to me like 3, 4 times. And she actually had come to me at an early point in my practice. I was still figuring things out. So she'd come now 3, 4 years later. And I remember when she walked in the door, her eyes looked a certain way. I was just like, her eyes look like that, you know? And it was just like stars or something. And we were just, she and I there. And she was like, hey, Jomo, you know, she saw me once before at the place that I was practicing at that point, because she used to come here to get aesthetic work, you know, esthetician type stuff, cosmetology. And so she was like, oh, you're here too. So we set up a session. That's what happened. So she goes into the room. I said, you know, you can set yourself up, this robe, blah, blah, blah. Went through the process. I'm sitting down. 2 or 3 minutes later, I get up, knock on the door. Hey, you ready? Don't hear anything. Knock again. You ready? Don't hear anything. Knock again. Nothing. I open up the door, and she was having what we would call in the Western medicine world, agonal breaths. I had gone through a training as an EMT after Chinese medicine, so I knew what that was. And I immediately started doing CPR and spent 15 to 20 minutes doing CPR on her until the EMTs came. And then even after that, she was in the hospital, and I did some things spiritually, because I knew that a part of her spirit, having understood death in the way I did, a part of her spirit was still in the room. So I needed that part of her spirit that was in the room to merge back with her body. So I stayed up for 24 hours. I didn't leave that practice space, doing specific rituals to, in my view, get her spirit to connect back with her body. And, you know, after I finished the rituals about 8:30, I get a call that she woke up out of the coma. She was in a coma pretty much when they got her to the hospital. They said, she just woke up. Are you going to come visit her? And I went. And I say that was the major, most defining moment that I have experienced, in totality. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And I mean, were you afraid in that moment for her, or did you feel completely confident of your skills?
In terms of as just doing CPR, I wasn't. That fear didn't enter my mind. I just knew what I had to do. It was interesting to be in that moment, and I won't go into it all, but no, there wasn't any fear. And having experienced the transition of people in my life close to me, from a spiritual context, I understood what we call the human soul, the part of our body the part of our spirit that animates our body. How does that move when we're sleeping, or when we're transitioning out of the physical body, or have some severe trauma happen, and that we can't stay in that body anymore? So my consciousness was more focused on helping that spirit, that soul, to reconnect. You know, we could call it the hun, or there's other words, you know, that we could use to reconnect with her physical body. Otherwise, she could have potentially stayed in that coma. You know, I don't know. I just know what I did, you know, and I know what the time frame is of what I did from the point she left that treatment space to the point that I got there in the morning to see her. And, I continued treating her when she got out, treated her 2 or 3 times. And she's still alive here today, doing great work with her family and community as an elder.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to help her. I would say for me that my defining moment was, I don't know if I mentioned to you that I used to work on cruise ships. And I had done that for some time. And this was after like wanting to get away from New York. I really wanted to get away after working in No Fault and seeing a gang of patients, seeing a ton of patients for so long. I really needed a break. And I thought I stupidly thought that if I go away on the cruise ship that I would get a break. Oh, I treat somebody
Yeah.
here and there, and it'd be this nice, light, and easy thing. And it was actually one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my life. And I just remember, I probably cried myself to sleep every night, because of how tough the work was and how heavy the workload was. Just to give you an example, you're working about 12 hours a day, 13 hours a day, because they figure, well, you don't have to commute to work and you're getting everything done for you. You've got somebody to clean your room, you've got somebody to make your food, you got a uniform, you don't really need to do anything. And so, there's not really much tolerance or sympathy for, your daily aches and pains or your need for sleep. Anyway, so I remember just being exhausted, super tired. And I was probably in Texas, because at that time I was doing Western Caribbean, and I may have been in Texas or Jamaica or Cozumel, something like that. I don't remember, but I remember we were out, we were on the ship at night, and I would come out to, I believe it's called, oh gosh, somebody's going to kill me because I don't remember the name of the front and the back, starboard port, all this stuff, aft and forward. Okay, so it's definitely the forward of the ship, right there at the hull of the ship. And I would come outside at night because my room was right there. I actually was right behind the anchor room. And I would come out there at night sometimes. And I remember I went out there at night during a pitch black night. So it must have been a new moon night. And I remember standing out there, and at night, I don't know if people realize, but at night, the ship turns its lights off to kind of conserve some energy. So there was absolutely no light. It's so dark, you can't even see your hand in front of your face. And I just remember really struggling mentally to be on that ship, feeling really alone. Most of the staff and crew are not from the United States. So there was that. And then, being away from home. And, it was rough. The workload was rough. And I remember standing out there and just like not being able to see anything at all. And I just thought about how dark everything was, how dark it was. And I remember thinking that, here I am in this world and it's so dark, and we're on this massive ship that holds 5,000-6,000 passengers. And I feel like absolutely nothing out here in this darkness. And I remember, and there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings that go along with that in the new moon. And I just remember feeling so powerless. And I remember thinking, okay, no, let me get it back together. Let me get it back here, because that's not true. I do have power. I'm here on this ship and I'm treating people. I'm treating 10, 11, 12, 13 people a day. And they're happy. They're getting the results that they need. But I think in that moment, I unburdened myself. And that moment, I unburdened myself with feeling like I needed to heal everyone. I think in that moment, I realized, number one, I can't heal everyone. Number two, everyone does not want to be healed in this lifetime. And number three, that it was not my job to do that. And I remember really unburdening myself, and I remember crying, and I remember releasing a lot in that moment, because I had tasked myself, with this job to just be like this superwoman, this super healer with a cape on to heal everyone. And I realized, no, it doesn't have to be like that. Things don't have to be like that. And I think that, and it was in that moment that I kind of decided that, that I wanted to move forward in a different direction. That was that moment where, okay, the crosswords are here and it's time to redefine my practice. And I'll discuss that in another time, but that was the moment that I think I remember very vividly in my career, was standing at the front of that ship and just feeling this darkness around me, and changing how I thought about treating. So I want to ask you, Jomo, how do you, if you could just tell us quickly, how do you incorporate spirituality into your practice? Because you did mention that before. And, I had this deeply spiritual moment, and I know that's a big part of who you are, a big part of your background. How do you incorporate it into the simplest of treatments? Someone's coming in there for headaches, right? Someone's coming to you for chronic headaches. How do you incorporate spirituality into those treatments?
All right. You used one of the earliest cases I had. I honestly can only answer that by, and I was thinking about this earlier. It would be really simple if I could say, yeah, all of us as acupuncturists, we can just go back to everything is in the basics. It's in the foundation, the fundamentals, the foundation. And then I remembered, well, some of us are TCM trained, some of us are not. Most of us are TCM trained. And definitely when in my graduating generation, it was largely TCM. And then we were a small microcosm, in states at least, of classically Chinese trained, which simply meant that it was coming from the Taoist roots, which were spiritual. Look at nature. If you can look at nature and spend time and observe nature, then you can see nature within the human being. And then work from there based off of the foundations. And so that's spiritual. We're using language. The points have names, all of these different things. We're looking at different aspects for the organs. So I would say for me, because I resonated, and again, 1996, I was 24 years old, 23, turning 24. The school came into my awareness. My teacher, Jeffrey, started the school at that institution. But I said, oh, I'll wait until I'm older. And I did that, went through a lot of adult life experiences between 96 and 2005, and found myself back doing the things I had been doing prior to 1995 or 96, but now with context, with experience, with some level of cultivation that wasn't present when I was younger. The best way I could think of it is like this. Somebody grows up seeing people do hip hop dance. So they just do it. And then they decide, I don't want to do hip hop dance anymore. Like, it's easy for them. They do it. They don't think about what they're doing. They're pop, locking, power, all this stuff is just whatever. And then they stop it for 10 years. And then they come back to it, but now they're coming back to it with somebody actually giving them the basics, but they get it. It's real easy for them to take it on. That's kind of what it was for me with spirituality, the systems I had been raised in, which were largely African and Asian, Taoists. And so when I came to Swedish Institute in 2005, my teacher spoke and it just made sense. And so I sucked up everything he said, everything that the other teachers who were senior to me, based off of how our program was structured, I sucked it up. It was just easy. And so someone with headaches, I had one of my very, very first patients, chronic headache, because I believed in the medicine. I had those cry moments of like, how am I going to treat this patient? But she felt a little bit better. And I remember my teacher, our teacher gave us Taoist names, and he was like, Jomo, I'm giving you this name. I won't go into that with the name Chi, primordial Chi. I'm giving you this name because your purpose, you don't question Chinese medicine. You just want to get it out there to the world. You have complete, utter faith in it, belief in it. You just want to get it out to the world. So for me, I knew if she experienced an hour without a headache after 15 years of chronic headaches using the treatment I did. And I was just fumbling relatively, to where I'm at now. And then she said, oh, I'm coming back because he helped just an hour, something I never had before in 15 years. And her headaches were from post-surgery. So she'd been dealing with headaches for 15 years from a surgical experience. And it was about another week or two later that I said, let me do something radical and just trust, and told her what I was going to do. And she left and she said, I have a headache for 24 hours. So for me, spirit is just always present. And my position with spirit is not Christian in the sense of good and evil spirit. It's more that spirit wants us all to succeed. And we're all going to be at different levels in our humanity. and our human experience, but we all are spirit. So, this comes to why do people come to acupuncture? The person who's choosing to come for acupuncture, they're choosing to do something that's radically different, that's going to align them with their spirit, even if it's for 5 minutes, and that alignment is infinite abundance, so spirits in everything that I do, literally, and it's always been that way. Even, we could talk about that another time, but it's always present in everything I do. No matter how hard life might be, spirit is always there for me.
Well, I think that's part of the holistic view as well. That's all part of it, that mind, body, spirit thing. It's all there, and there really is no separation. When you really and truly understand health, there's really no separation. I think another change, another defining moment in my career was when I really, we talk about mind, body, spirit health, but at the same time, we're not always implementing that. And I think that truly understanding the connection between mind, body, spirit, and really incorporating that into every treatment, asking that person about their parents and their fortune as far as their karma, asking that person about some of the deeds that they've done in the past or mistakes that they've made that may have harmed another person. Incorporating all of that, I think that is more, and also asking about their social life, asking about their love life. I started doing this because I can't get a proper picture of their health without knowing some of these things. And because health is not just the absence of disease, it's not just, I feel good today, my back's not hurting today, I'm without a sinus infection today, whatever the case is. Health is everything. It really is everything. How are you doing financially? How are you doing socially? How's your communication skills? Are you telling lies every day? Are you, there's so much involved, that my evaluations kind of went from being about 10 minutes to about an hour long with most of my patients now, because I really need to get a better view of what's going on in their life. So, okay, so I want to ask you, Jomo, because we do need to be mindful of the time here for our interview, and I'm enjoying this so much, and I definitely will have you back on. But I want to ask you, are there any specialties that you like to treat? Are there any fields that you're more interested in, whether it's neurology, pain management, GYN? Are there things that you like to treat more, cases that you like to treat more, or fields that you tend towards, or that you're better at?
At this point, I would say no. And if I may, when our teacher recommended when we were graduating, he said, choose a specialty and master that. So if it's reproduction, focus on that. You're going to get patients coming for other things, but put yourself out there as a reproduction specialist. Master that, and then incorporate another. I was like, I don't know. I'm in Harlem. Most of my patients are Black. Are they even going to come? Like whether they're Spanish speaking or English, are they even going to come in? Like my attitude was, I wanted every patient who came in, because I knew my people. When I say my people, I knew Black folks, whether they were English speaking or Spanish speaking or African speaking or Creole speaking. We do believe in spirit in some way, whether we call it God, whatever. So I want them to come in, I do what I do, and they walk out saying, God, I don't know what the hell he did, but I feel so much better. And that's it. Have a spiritual experience is what I was looking at. And I didn't consciously get that when I started my practice. But that's what I literally told the person I started practice in Harlem. And I just saw everybody. But what it turned out, what I came to understand later, was that the people that I was seeing initially were all trauma: physical, emotional, mental, which can be emotional. And then I started to have folks who were coming in from sexual trauma, reproductive issues as a result of sexual trauma, women. And then I started to have folks coming in with digestive issues, diabetes, issues with alcoholism. So these are all trauma related. Diabetes then can come out of that. So digestive stuff at this point, and it goes on and on. So at this point, I say I'm comfortable with treating, and there was a period where for 3-4 years when you and I, well, actually after you had left Third Root, where for 3 years, I just treated women who wanted to get pregnant. Like literally, I got titled the baby making doctor,
That's not a bad title.
It depends if you want children. It's a little tough. I went through a moment there, when it was deep. But, I say that my primary focus, people have come to me, and I don't know how it'll be here in Savannah, what historically people have come to me for is trauma. And that can be trauma that is physical, mental, emotional, and or psychological, sexual. And then from there, it's a wide gamut, largely digestive, and then it depends on what goes on, reproductive stuff, all of those things. But trauma has been the main thing, and that's what I've been summoned. Like folks have called for me to travel and go to the other parts of the country to support folks who are dealing with trauma in the moment. Like on real life, what we would call battlefields of social protest. Jomo, will you come down here? Because we have folks who are getting beat by the police, and grandmothers who are getting run over and rubber bullets shot at them. And it's deep, it's holding space for that. And if I may just close it with saying, one of the blessings that came out of it, as I went deeper and deeper in that path, I also began to heal my own traumas as well, the deep levels. Because doing the work for me meant also doing work on myself consciously. And as I made shifts deeper and deeper into what we call phases of life, like literally when I made a decision that I wanted to have children, that meant I went deeper in the work of healing my own childhood stuff and my parents' stuff and intergenerational stuff. So now it's, whomever comes, yeah. I can think more about things that.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I could think more about what more has been more of a challenge for me now, as opposed to, and I don't even know if it would be a challenge at this point, but.
What's that?
Lung stuff. The one thing I'm excellent at, hold my breath, run for hours. Patients who historically, I would have challenges with patients who would have respiratory issues or issues rooted in lungs, so eczema, things like that. But, I haven't had that in a minute, so, we'll see what happens then.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how the bulk of your patients are so, as far as what they're coming in for, are so location specific? I'm learning that, I really had to change not only how I look at, my practice here in South Florida. I really had to think about, I had to reflect on what was going on in New York. I primarily saw shoulder, neck pain, headaches, more of that upper bodies, that upper stuff, shoulder up stuff. Mental health, stress, trauma, so much of that up in New York. And coming down here, I thought that my practice would be primarily focused on treating the elder problems, treating in geriatrics. So, I'm trained by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, to do cancer and immunology and inflammation. And here, open my doors for this, as well as dementia. Now, open my doors for this, and it turned out what people wanted was cosmetics. That's all they wanted was cosmetics. So, I had to kind of refine those skills in addition to what I was already doing. So the bulk of my practice is cosmetics, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I find it to be a nice challenge for me, but I think the field that I love the most is probably mental wellness. That's the field that I love the most, because I feel like we can make the most change in that area, especially since now all the attention is on mental health. There's so much attention on it in the recent years. I'm loving hearing young people talking about it. I'm loving that the focus is on it. because there's so much that acupuncture can do for those people, for that population. And I'm including myself, I'm including all of us in that, because we all have some form of trauma. We all go through our days where we have more sadness than others, or more anxiety than others. And so, you know, I love, love, love helping people come out of that, because I think pain is so familiar to us. We can deal with pain. My back hurts, okay, I deal with that all the time. My neck hurts, okay, whatever. You know, I've got some digestive issues. I think that there's nothing more scary than dealing with mental health issues. As a human being, you know, being in these human bodies where you feel like your mind is not yours, or you don't have control over your thought process or your mood, it can be really scary. And unfortunately, through allopathic medicine, you know, people don't necessarily get the relief that they need because the roots are not addressed. And through acupuncture, we really do address those roots. So I'm loving, loving, loving where my practice is going, as far as including the mental health patients. All right, I have one more question for you before we go, Jomo. What is one thing that you would like the general public to know about acupuncture? If you could sum it up into like 1 or 2 sentences, what is something that you want everyone to know about acupuncture, about the benefit of acupuncture?
Okay. Acupuncture, which is a part of Chinese medicine, it's one of the modalities, is beneficial for the individual who's choosing to seek it out at every stage of life, in utero all the way to elder, what some call geriatrics. It can help with any condition that the person is having, chronic, acute, severe, mild. And ideally, once you have harmony with that condition, then it's just there to help you just maintain yourself, with the side effects being beneficial: increased energy, balanced sleep, better sexual life, digestion, attitude, and movement through life becomes greater ease. That's the side effect. So it's the one medicine. It is a form of medicine that I would say the side effect is beneficial to you. It's going to change you too, but it's beneficial to you. And the change that happens within you is that you're just more of your authentic self, freer in your authenticity, which may be challenging for you as the individual, but you know, your practitioner will support you.
How cool is it to practice a medicine where the side effects are almost better than any type of medicine that you can take over the counter? I tell my patients, listen, your sleep's going to get better. You're going to just naturally lose weight. You're going to naturally look younger after a few treatments. You're going to naturally be less bloated. You're going to naturally be pain-free, even though I'm not even treating some of those areas locally. But it's really, it's a cool thing to be able to make people feel so damn good when they get up and when they're walking around. And I think that's one of the huge, huge benefits of acupuncture. Well, Jomo, I just want to say thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
If I may say something, for anyone who's seeking it out, it will change you. So just be mindful to let your people know. You know, I say for a lot of the women, what I found challenging was that their partners were still moving a certain way, but then they're moving in a different direction. So let your people know you're going through something that may bring about a change within you that actually is beneficial, even if it's new to them and is going to be new to you as well. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, something you don't remember, because as we get older, we forget how we were authentically or innocently. So
share the healing, share the healing. Absolutely. Share the healing, and, you know, let people know that, you know, what's working for you. I think that we don't do that enough. Let people know what's working for you. All right, Jomo, is there anything that you would like to know, let the people know about how to reach you? I can also post it onto the video, but is there anything that you want people in your area to know about how to reach you, or not just yet? I don't know what's going on as far as, you know, your practice is concerned.
All the beautiful bureaucracy of the health industry in regards to acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I live in Savannah, Georgia right now, so it's adjacent to South Carolina. And I haven't been back in New York City in a while, but I'll say if folks want to reach me, for just any type of consultation work, they can reach me at acujomo@gmail.com. And if they want to call, a little tough with it because of the other things I'm doing, but 646, I can't remember the telephone number right now. My brain is just
It's all
escaping.
good.
But
It's all good. They can email you.
ACUJOMO, and they can just send me an email there. I do check that fairly regularly, and put Dr. MJ interview, and I'll know to just check it promptly and respond back promptly.
Thank you
you
so
for
much,
holding.
Jomo. I really appreciate it.